2. Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore positive. We are positively taking the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out on the road. I have a whole list of places we're going to be. We're going to be at Pappas in late May. We're going to be at State Fair in Catonsville in June, early June. We're going to be at Coco's and Costas as well. But we are at Fadley's every Friday that the Orioles are home. So that's a couple times this month. We're going to have the Maryland Lottery scratch-offs from Pac-Man to give away until I get the new ones. And they have the new Cash Pop game as well. Our friends at Liberty Pure Solutions keeping my water clean. I will be sipping some water in this one because I'm going to let the other guy, the guest, do the talking on this one. Also, our friends at Jiffy Lube Multi-Care. It's always a good morning to wake up, and I always pray for rain on days when I book Ken Singleton because golfs, and I know this is the between. Listen, Billy picked golf up, and we've lost our friendship. I mean, he's up golfing 8 days a week now, and I know it was always your passion when you weren't hitting it in the bullpen. How are you? I hear you're retired, but I don't think of you as old, Singy.
Well, I appreciate that, Nestor, because I tell my friends I might be getting older, but I'm not old. There's a difference there. Yeah, I am retired. I stopped doing games a couple of years ago, and I have a lot more free time now, so I can hang out with my former teammates like Al Bumbry and Tippy Martinez and Tim Nordbrook and Ross Grinsley and Mike Torres, and we can hit the golf courses, hit the links both here in Maryland and down in Florida in the wintertime.
Well, I mean, you just named a whole bunch of people, made me smile. Old names of the past. I've taken to collecting Louis Aparicio baseball cards. He just celebrated a birthday a couple weeks ago, and being born with my crazy last name. I did this 25th anniversary documentary. I don't have a picture with you that I know of. I think we took one on a golf cart one day somewhere, but I couldn't find it to stick it into the stupid movie. And, you were never out at the barn. Tippy was. Like a lot of the guys that lived here. I saw Terry Crowley recently. I was with BJ Surhoff last night at the grand reopening of Fadley's. He's going to be doing the crab races with us next week at Lexington Market. I did the crab races, but BJ's so competitive. He won last year. I'm just going to MC it. I mean, I don't even want to pretend. It's like Rocky, no rematch for me. But the alumni network that we have here and the incredible resources that Mr. Rubenstein inherits that Mr. Angelos didn't take advantage of. And we'll talk about that good, bad, ugly, and all. I mean, there's a reason you weren't calling the games here the last 30 years, but this is a fresh thing going on here. I'm assuming you still live here. I bumped into you in Hunt Valley recently, or spent enough time here to know that this is we've all waited for this, right? Alumni, people that care, community people, media people, you're one of those too. This is a beautiful thing to see the next thing.
Yeah, it is, Nestor, and I will say this. When you have a bond with the people that you've worked with over the years, whether it be in playing baseball or doing television for 37 years, it lasts forever. And I am fortunate enough to have played on Baltimore Oriole teams that were very, very good. I was here for 10 years. We had a winning record every year. We got to a couple of World Series. As you know, we were 1-1 in the World Series, but we won one. We got it done against Philadelphia.
I try to forget about that Pittsburgh thing, but every time I ran into Grant Jackson, Blyleven, any of those guys, they would always rub it in. They'd have a problem doing that.
That's okay. They came back. But the problem for Pittsburgh is they haven't been to a World Series since.
I like to talk that too. That's good too. That works in football and baseball season, Singing.
Yeah, and we got back to one, and we actually won against Philadelphia. So, we have a bond for life. Now it's extended to the golf course, and we play as much as we can. Now, you're right about the fact that I'm here in Baltimore most of the year. I live here, but when it starts getting too cold, I head for Florida. And my wife and I stay there about 3.5 months a year. It cuts the winter short. We come back when it starts to warm up, and we're back now.
Man, I could have had you on at any point. I think I reached you when we were playing the Yankees, and you come at this point. We're a month into this ownership thing. The owner's splashing people in left field, like all of this stuff that's happened. Cal is now involved. We've seen this. Singy, I'll be honest, man, the day he died and the transfer, all of this has happened so fast. And I've been on the air 32 and a half years now, 25 years at the radio station. So this crazy documentary came out. But I said when he died, and the team was sold all within, a minute really, in our collective experiences of all that. I never talked about what would happen next. I never talked to
Yeah.
my son, my wife. I never talked on the air. Like it felt like, and I said this, like it felt like Cuba or Russia, like it's never going to change, and we have to accept this or not accept whatever it is. But there has been a change, and you're watching this, and we're
Mhm.
waiting for it to unfold. But it could not happen for a better time at the city. There's fresh money for the stadium. The
Yeah.
team is good, 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 good.
Mhm.
Obviously Elias knows what he's doing. I mean, John didn't do a lot of things well, but he left Mike Elias behind, right? And certainly left some players on the field that this is the best possible circumstance for new ownership here.
Yeah, it is. Well, Mr. Angelos did hire Mike Elias, so that was a good thing back, several years ago, and he rebuilt the farm system. One thing that Mike Elias has done, I think you'll agree with me, that they've hit on all of their big draft picks over the years, and that's kind of hard to do. Teams, they put a lot of money into these young kids, and some of them don't work out. The Orioles seem to have had just about every single one of them work out and create this team that they have now, which is young, vibrant. They're probably the best base running team in the league as far as going first to third and first to home on a double. They all can run. They play defense solidly. The pitching's good, and they can hit. They and the Yankees have the two best offenses in the league. Maybe I'll throw Texas in there as well, but it's certainly in the American League East. They do have the two best, most balanced lineups in the league.
Look, the Yankees always had resources, including
Yeah.
you, for all the years. And best broadcast, top of line, best airline, best everything, right? And highest payroll and best players. And to be bad, to brag about how many 1-1s you have really speaks to how many lost seasons. I mean, completely lost seasons you have to have 1-1s and 1-2s and 1-5s and
Yeah.
1-4s. I mean, all of
Mhm.
these Cowsers, all of these Kerstads, and not to mention, Rutschman and there's some Gunners in there too that weren't 1-1s.
Mhm.
What do you attribute? You've been watching this a long time, man. Hank Peters, the Cal Ripken, the Oriole Way, your Expos experiences that probably weren't the greatest in that period of time, and then these Yankees experiences where you're staying at the Four Seasons and everybody's eating prime rib, right? I mean, like literally. But even the Yankees with resources, I'll give him Jeter and I'll give him Bernie Williams, but that was 35 years ago. I mean, it's not easy to do. What is the genius of Mike Elias in doing this?
I think Elias, first of all, he has a keen eye for talent, and the people that he has surrounded himself with, the scouts, they go out and find these players, and the analytical people who do the do the numbers work on all these young players. They hit. They combine it all to come up with some very good players. Henderson, I feel eventually is going to be an MVP in this league, if not this year. If the Orioles go on and win the division, have the best record in the league like they did last year, he has a chance to pull a Cal. If you remember back in the day, Cal was Rookie of the Year, and the next year he was MVP. So
Oh, we
Henderson's
won
got.
we won a World Series there too. Let's not forget that part. I know
Yeah,
you don't
yeah, we
forget that
did.
part.
Yeah, we did. We had a very good team. Yeah, that was a while
Well,
back,
but
but
that is the confluence of when an Eddie Murray's been hanging around and a Singleton's been hanging around longer than that,
yeah,
and a Flanagan and a McGregor, and you all went through this thing in '79 that was devastating for you, and then strikes, and we're fighting with everybody, and
yeah,
then split seasons, and the Yankees, and like all that happened that led to that band of brothers you speak of to this
yeah,
day that Masson made the nice thing and Brett Hollander. I haven't watched it yet. I've seen some. I want to watch it and get all weepy eyed because I did pull out my World Series tickets from '83. I still have my Game 5 where my dad and I sitting up in the 700 level at the vet. But for all of that, this group, I was down in Arlington when they got their feelings hurt and their pitching wasn't good enough and they didn't hit the
no,
ball when they needed to and
mhm.
they didn't answer the bell and we hear all of this. I Not much stirs up my Luke Jones. He got real stirred up on this streak thing about sweeps. He's like 122. They got swept in the playoffs. Like they really got swept, but it counts too. And they got their feelings hurt. And boy, have the organization's really answered the bell, right? I mean, from the passing of Peter and John and the torch and the family, to Rubenstein to Corbin Burns, to,
Yeah.
whatever they're going to do to answer the bullpen, to Bradish, where he could have taken a knife. Now he's pitching. Now we're holding our breath, right? And all of this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even in Kimbrel's failures in recent days, and give that a week or a month, and the money they spent, they really, man, they're trying harder than we've seen them try in 30 years. They're doing things differently. The owners in the outfield squirting people in a tutu. I mean, like, this is a completely, it's a new world. I mean, it's almost unrecognizable to some degree. And the amount of prosperity, and man, you go get coffee in Hunt Valley and you're Ken Singleton, man. People are coming up to you every day and talking baseball in a way. Same thing with me. Everywhere I go, people are coming up to me and talking to me about this time of the year. They've been talking about the Ravens draft picks around here, or about the
Yeah.
horse race that's going on next week. I mean, there's lots of things. Lacrosse, right? I mean, there's all of that. You've lived here 35 years too. They're talking baseball again, and it's a pinch me. I'm really trying to come to grips with what this can be, because it can be Boog's Barbecue and all of you alums and all of that. This can be a beautiful thing that's about to happen, and it's off of losing and getting disappointed in this group of guys that we're getting sucked into Gunnar Henderson in the way that we got sucked into Cal Ripken.
I agree with you, Nestor. And I think one thing you have to remember that last year, this is a very young team. But they did get that playoff experience last year. They went in last year's playoff without any experience at all, and very limited experience as big league ball players. So now, now there's a feeling in the clubhouse, I'm sure, of unfinished business. That last year, we got swept. So next year, if we get in again this year, what I'm talking about, they probably have a better performance. I think they have better pitching. So that would help for sure. But I just feel like it's like let me say, it's like a building blocks, if you will. You get that little bit of experience. Next time you're not the deer in the headlights the next time. So I would hope that the Orioles get back. They're going to get to the playoffs this year, but I think they'll play a little bit better for sure.
Now, come on, man. You've called a billion baseball games. How many times in May 10th have you said they're going to get to the playoffs this year? I mean, like, literally, like, let's not normalize this, Singy.
Yeah.
you know?
There'll be ups and downs along the way. There's no doubt about that. But overall, I think a team that wins 101 games the year before, they're not going to drop off that much that they're going to drop completely out of the playoffs. That's something that the Red Sox do. The Orioles don't do that. And the Yankees don't do that either. One thing I will say, the Yankees address their needs too. So you've got two teams that I feel are two best offenses in the league, and it's just a matter of whose pitching is a little bit better, who's going to win the division. Both of them are going to make the playoffs. So it's speaking of that, we were talking about days gone by. I wish they had a wild card back in the day when I was playing. We would have been in how many more times?
It would
At
cost
least.
me and my dad a lot more money in 80, 81, and 82, because we'd have been, I mean, that Brewers weekend would have meant nothing in 82, right?
Yeah, we would have been in anyway. And we when I was here 10 years, we got to the World Series twice, but we finished second 6 times. You finish second now, you got a good chance of making the playoffs, so you're still in there, a chance to win the world title. So
Well, the other part of that would have been, you guys would have seen Rice and Lynn in 79 too, and Tion. I mean, like, if the third and fourth best teams in those American leagues, you were one of them 6 times, would have been hell to pay. That's the reason they invented the wall. I'm like, because we missed
you're
out
absolutely
on more fun. Yankees and Red
absolutely
Sox
right.
would have played in 78 in meaningful games in October, after Bucky
Absolutely
Dent,
right.
right?
Absolutely right. That you know what, the attendance probably would have been better too, and all that sort of thing. Because people know you're still in it. I just think that baseball has made some good strides as far as promoting the game, trying to make it better, speeding the games up. The bigger bases create more action on the bases, more stolen bases. I think you're going to find more athletic players coming into the game. Speed is becoming more and more prevalent in the game. It's not sit there and try and hit 3-run homers or try and hit home runs. Everybody's swinging for fences. I think it's slowly coming back to the point. Home runs are fun. Power is fun. People will pay to see power, but you got to have guys who can hit too. All these strikeouts, I was doing games, the Yankee games, where they would win a game because they hit 3 home runs, but they would strike out 15 times. And to me, that's a lot of nothing happen at the plate. I want to see action on the. I want to see guys steal bases. We're getting back to that now.
I love having you on, let you preach. I mean, I don't know if you got the chance to do
Yeah.
this. We are at the gospel and sermon of the great Ken Singleton. He has returned to us. He is here in Baltimore. You'll always be an Oriole to me, but this Yankee thing in recent times,
Uh-huh.
you were a part of an incredible transition in baseball. Now, I've been thrown out for 18 years, so I haven't been allowed to be around people like you. There have been alumni who aren't allowed to come on and like all of that. So, in talking baseball and being around baseball, I've had the privilege of having a handful of people who, through the course of years, would try to express to me the difference on the inside that analytics made. And it
Yeah.
didn't come here during the Buck era. It came here when Elias happened. In the Yankees thing, Cashman's sort of survived it all and been there. But you go in and out of all of these airport cities, teams, knowing old friends, new friends, young people. Who's that lady? Who's that guy? Who's running that? Where did it hit a guy who, and you are a generation older than me? I mean,
Yeah.
I stood in the batter's box with my wiffle ball bat, emulating you and pulling the rocks out and moving the, moving the line in the back so I could get back further in the box. My dad would say, "Step up in the box." But for you, the analytics part of this, I always think about what my dad would make of that, who loved the Ted Williams science
Yeah.
of baseball and the numbers of the game. How did you take to it, and how would you express it to me, being the village idiot, or my dad if he came back to life, to say, this is how it's really changed the game on the inside? Because I really do feel like if I ever sat with Mike Elias, that would be the genius of all of this, to you to say, well, he identifies talent, but they're doing something that's getting that talent to the big leagues and producing.
Yeah, that's a good question. The fact is, when I was playing, it was like, what was your batting average? How many home runs did you hit? How many runs did you drive in? How many runs did you score?
That wins and
Now,
losses for pitchers, right?
yeah, exactly. And now they do over the spin rates and all this sort of thing for pitchers. Also, the radar guns have kind of taken over. And for hitters, I remember when I was playing for Montreal, I led the league in on base percentage. It wasn't even a negotiating ploy on either side. Either the owners didn't think about it, and my agent and I didn't
Let's
think
get
about it.
Singleton in here. We'll bat him. We'll bat him lead off. He's gonna have
Yeah,
some walk.
yeah,
That's exactly what
exactly,
happened. He also
exactly what
hit
happened.
29 home runs that year too. But that's.
Exactly. Earl Weaver was kind of ahead of his time. He got me in here, and I remember my first year in spring training. He says to me, "You're going to lead off." I said, "I've never done that before." And he said, "Well, you walk a lot, and you're going to get on base, and that's what we want here. We want people on base." He knew not only just being on base creates havoc for the other team. Just because you're there, they have to work harder to keep you from moving around the bases, and that's harder on the pitchers. So Earl led me off that one year. I got on base 40% of the time. My first time up in the season, Nestor, we're in Detroit. I walked. Opening day, walk, leading off the game, leading off the season. Go to third on a base hit and scoring a 3-run homer. I walk in the duck. Lee May hits a 3-run homer, his first home run in the American League. And I come in the dugout. Earl sticks his finger in my chest and says, "That's what the hell I'm talking about. Just get on base." And basically, that was my job. I walked 118 times that year. That is still the Orioles single season record for base on balls. I remember what Lee May said when he came back to the dugout. It was his first American League at bat. He hits a 3-run homer in the upper deck of Detroit. And he comes in, he stands by Earl and says, "I think I'm going to like this league."
Well, the other part is he was trying to kick Earl's ass in the 70 World Series too, so there was all of that
Yeah,
too. So him
yeah,
coming
that's
over and playing for the Orioles. Ken, I like, once I get you on all of this, John Miller, not that John Miller, another John Miller from the Wall Street
yeah,
Journal is doing a book on Earl Weaver. While
yeah.
we're on Earl, and I channeled Earl, and you're talking about Earl, and let's talk about that in analytics, because John's book is basically that Earl was the genius behind all of this, and Earl was the
Yeah.
guy talking about it. Speak to me about being a kid in the Mets organization. I mean, then going to Montreal, then you obviously were here the rest of the time. But philosophically, Did Earl say things like that to you about you, like the Greek god of walks that we would look at now after Moneyball? And did he speak about the game differently than you had heard it spoken about when you got here?
Well, having been with the Mets and being tutored in the minor leagues and in instruction league by Whitey Herzog, another Hall of Fame manager, then going to Montreal, playing for Gene Mock on a team that was basically an expansion team at the time. We had a lot of older guys and a lot of very young guys like myself, but we didn't have the guys in the middle that kind of carry the team. The guys with just enough experience, but they're not over the hill yet. And then to come to Baltimore and play for Earl, Nestor, the first day I walked into spring training, the first person I walked in when I came in the door was Brooks Robinson. And Brooks put his arm around me and said, Ken, welcome to the Baltimore Orioles. We have a good team here. You don't have to do it all by yourself. I walked in the clubhouse and I looked around the clubhouse, and there's Paul Blair and Bobby Gridge and Mark Belanger and Jim Palmer and Mike Cuellar, Elrod Hendricks, Grant Jackson, and various other guys who were very good players. Of course, Brooksy, of course, and Lee May was there. He had just been traded over there. And I looked around, I said, Brooks is right. There's a lot of good players in here. And then Earl would come in and give his speech, opening speech in spring training, talking about, look, we're like a family here. We got to stick together. If you have any problems, my door is always open. Nobody would ever go in the door, but the fact is they didn't want to deal with Earl that much. But I remember another thing about the Orioles, and this is more just as important. About a week into spring training, Mark Belanger and his wife Dee threw a party for the team in spring training, and they invited all the players and the wives and the kids, and my mom was down there at the time. And my mom said, I asked Mark, can I bring my mom to the party? He said, sure. She's part of the family. Bring your mom. So my mom came to the party. She struck up a conversation with Brooks Robinson and the Belangers. And, it was like my wife and I weren't even there. She's talking to them. So on the way home, my mom says, this is not only a good team, they're a very tight team. And my mom was a great judge of character, and she said, "You might want to stay here for a while."
And here you
So
are.
yeah, and I did for 10 years. And my mom and dad at that time, they were still living in New York where I grew up. But once they both retired, they moved down to Maryland to be close to their grandkids. And to me, they were such an influence on my kids. You know how grandparents are with children, but maybe you don't yet. But the fact is that they're fantastic. I miss them greatly. My kids are all grown up now, but I can still see the influence my mom and dad had on them, and had on me and my brother too, for that matter. And the fact is that my mom was a good judge of character, and she was right about the Baltimore Orioles. You wanted to stay here and play for this team, play for that man, Earl Weaver, as tough as he was and as profane as he could be, and all that sort of thing. He was a winner, and that's what you want to do. That's what you go out there for, to win games. During my time in Baltimore, 10 years, we won more games than any other team. We won over 900 games. If you figure that out, that's over 90 wins a year. So that's the type of team you want to play for.
And I'm still here 4 decades later, loving the team because of my childhood and going out there every night and feeling a part of that. And that conveyed to the fans when you and DeCinces and Dempsey are out with towels and Sammy Stewart and getting fans doing OR and Wild Bill, and
Yeah.
that is the and I keep saying this. I ran into Deepak Chopra on the streets of New York 2 summers ago, and one of my favorite, is pure potentiality. Pure potentiality. That's what I feel like Mr. Rubenstein has inherited here in regard to, hey, smaller market. The money's not coming from DC. They have their own team there. Everything Mr.
Uh-huh.
Angelos ever said about 2 teams in the market and all that. We're going to be a smaller market, but there's no reason this can't be the St. Louis Cardinals, or this can't be something we wouldn't even recognize as
Yeah.
being like a Green Bay Packers kind of place for baseball. And part of that would be people like you and him reaching to you and saying you're an alum who's lived here, who's been wearing Yankee gear the last 30 years, like you live here. What tell my world and even me, because I don't know, why did you stay here? I mean, like all of these years,
Yeah.
you're Mr. Yankee and yes net when you're in New York and you're going to work and like, but you never left here, man. I've never not run into you in Hunt Valley or seen you at a golf tournament or known an off season where you haven't spent a lot of time in Baltimore, Maryland.
Well, my second wife is from here, so that's one big reason, and she has a lot of relatives in the area. And having played here and had so much fun, and just the friends that I've made over the years, there's no reason to leave it. And, even though I grew up in New York, there's a certain electricity up there and all that sort of thing. My kids all went to school here. One of my sons went to Loyola, one of my sons went to St. Paul's, my daughter went to Maryvale. I mean, all very good schools. They're all educated now and off doing their things. But this is the reason why you stay here. It's beautiful. I just
Look at you,
I live
you glowing about it. And I'd even forgotten, like originally, like New York, you're calling games. I mean, like your work was there, and you didn't even
yeah.
go there. Yeah, that's the amazing part, really.
Well, I took a lot of Amtrak's, believe me, up and down, up and back. I'd go up there maybe on a Monday morning, get
And
up
you
early.
quit the job just when they fixed the train station up there.
You know what? I saw that. You know what? I figured I'd help pay for it. I help pay for it for sure, or the Yes Network paid for it. Uh, get me up and back to New York on the Amtrak. It's funny because when I was going up north, riding up north to New York on the train, people would ask about the Yankees. What do you think the Yankees do? And then Sunday after an afternoon game, and I'm taking the train back to Baltimore if I didn't have to continue on with the Yankees for a few days. Uh, them coming back south on the train, and people would say, "What do you think the Orioles are going to do?" So yeah, it was. I can't say enough about covering the Yankees for 25 years. Uh, they had a winning record every single year I was there. You talked about the resources; they definitely have them. They treat their players well. They pay them well. They treat everybody else pretty well too. So I have no complaints about covering them. It was a great experience covering the New York Yankees. But I do have a lot of orange and black running through my veins. And it was, I think I'm one of the few people that can walk a fine line between these two franchises.
I would say, man, I don't know. They
Yeah.
let you into Looney's Pub or some places around here that are very anti-Yankee. As
Yeah.
I know
Well,
them.
that's okay. They can say what they want,
Should
but
be anti-Yankee, or we're not
but
anti-Yankee
all I
enough
got
that
to
we're
do
too
is
nice to you.
all I got to do is point to the point to the Orioles press guy and say, "Look, my name's in there a lot."
A lot. Yeah, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah.
Hey, how many rings do you have from the Yankees?
Let's see. I've got That's a good question, and I'll give you a story about it. I've got four from them, three from them, and one my Oriole ring.
Okay.
Um,
So the
I've
Yankees have
got
only won 3 since you've been there.
No,
Like,
they
no?
won more than that.
Oh, okay.
One year we didn't get one because one of my colleagues spoke up about in something that George Steinbrenner didn't like to hear, and so nobody got any rings. None of the broadcasters had you, but I did get three of them, and I have one Oriole ring. I have four children, so when the
Ah.
time comes, each of them is going to get a ring, but they all know that the Oriole ring is the most special. So I'm not going to designate who gets what. They're going to have to pick names out of a hat to see who eventually gets that ring. I you know I I love all my kids. They're three boys and a girl.
These are
Uh,
tough decisions.
it
Wow.
is a tough. That's why they're going to have to. It's going to be the luck of the draw. It's not going to be what Dad handed out. So I just think that they all know the Oriole ring is the most special one because I was playing that. So I just yeah, that's the way it's going to be.
Ken Singleton's our guest here. We always love having. So before I let you go, I mean, and you're always generous with your time. We always have a good time together and geese and wheeze and tell old stories and weave things in. The media part of this, you made your living getting a nice salary from Yes and
Yeah.
like all of this stuff. Yes was what the guiding light for the Angelos family always was for Masson, even though they couldn't figure it out. They didn't have shoulder programming and all that. This thing is falling apart, right? Like, you got out of a good time for that part of it. Certainly not to be a media mogul in the part of where RSNs are going and where media and streaming are
Yeah.
going. And for all of that, I think that's going to define the Rubenstein era and this coming era of baseball,
Yeah.
the way
Hmm.
stadiums and skyboxes and trying to figure out whether they're going to sell patches on Yankees jerseys and look like NASCAR drive. I don't know what it's going to be. Naming rights of this, casinos, that, all of that. But the media part of it, do you have anything to say about any part of that? Because, like, when I look at it, I think, like, how are we going to pay Adley Rutschman? How are we going to pay? How do you become
Hmm.
that thing? It has to be easy for me to get the games, affordable. I have to want them. They have to be good. They have to have
Yeah.
people like you and Ben McDonald calling games that keep me engaged with the games every day, and the ads and all of that that builds a business. That's the
Hmm.
biggest question facing Major League Baseball as I see it. Because
Yeah.
I think they
Yeah.
fixed the game in a lot of ways, to your point, right?
Yeah, Nestor, I agree with you because I think they're already thinking about alternatives to these cable networks. I think that the streaming is the next way they're going to go. You already see some games being streamed. I know some fans aren't happy about it because it's a sort of new technology for older people like me. But having young kids, they can always tell me how to stream these games. So I think that's exactly where they're headed. I think you're going to see teams. What I heard is going to happen in New York is that you're going to have a streaming service with all the New York teams on it. So, and then that way you can go to one place and stream through the schedule there and pick who you want to watch. But you don't have to go to different channels to do it. You just go to that one streaming service. That's what I heard is going to happen in New York. Now around here, I'm not so sure what's going to happen, but that's what they're thinking of in New York. Streaming's the next big wave. After these cables, the RSNs leave, which maybe it's not going to happen, right around the corner, but eventually they're going to figure out a way. It's all about how making more money. So that's the way it's going to go.
But baseball has to get that part of it right, and certainly
Yeah.
Mr. Rubenstein has a lot of things to get right, including a lot of relationships with broken alums that
Mhm.
need to be welcomed back in, and media people and fans and businesses. And you live here too, and you know all the you know where all the bones are buried. But what do you wish for Mr. Rubenstein? I mean,
Yeah.
have you met him? Have you talked to him? And if you did, what would you say to him if he said, what do you think I should do around here?
I have not met the Mr. Rubenstein. I haven't had the pleasure as of yet. I like what he's done so far. Uh, Anybody who on opening day tells the people at Pickles Pub that all the beer is free for them that day, I think that's a good way to get off to a good start with the fans. I like the fact that he's doing these commercials. That I think it's cool that he seems to be genuine. I think number one, the fact that he grew up in Baltimore and he grew up with the Baltimore Orioles and being a fan. Now he's made his fortune, and now he's got the team. And he usually in baseball, when a new owner takes over a team, he makes a big splash and he tries to make sure that the team is successful, or at least show that he's trying. I think number one priority is trying to get Corbin Burns signed, that an ace type pitcher, and then if he can get it done, extensions for the younger stars. It over the long haul, it works out for both the player and the owners. If you can do that, that's what the Atlanta Braves do all the time. All the young players, all the players are signed up for 8 to 10 years, and they know what their costs are going to be down the road. So I think if they can do that with these younger guys like Rushman and Henderson and some of the others, Mountcastle, maybe these are all good young players. I mean, this team's going to be good for quite a while. They're going to be fun to watch. I think the stadium's going to be bursting with fans again, and I can see this happening. You get a winning if you win, they will come. That's what they say, and that's true.
We haven't talked a lot. I mean, I've had you on the show 30 years now, Singy, and we haven't had a whole lot of, like, they're winning, they're in first place. Here we are. It really is. It's been beautiful. It's been a beautiful couple of months here to see. That's why I have the sun coming up over Camden Yards in my shot. Ken Singleton is there. What are you doing? Hey, tell me. I mean, you're always playing golf and charities and this.
Yeah.
Promote something that you're doing that's good in the community. Let people know how they can find you and whatnot. I know where Al is. I find him over at Robbie's first base, but I don't see you around as much. But this 83 movies out, and I really do hope that whatever bonds and that you all have as alumni, that
Yeah.
Mr. Rubenstein and the new group and Cal, that they share in that, because I think it's so important for everybody, for all the healing we all need to do in different ways. The
Mhm.
winning's going to be great, but then there's the part of it where everybody comes.
Yeah.
To your point, that when the place is packed, we're all going to feel great and we're all in it. That's what it's about.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. For me, I think I've mentioned this to you before about the Cool Kids campaign. We deal with the kids, youngsters, children, and their families who are dealing with cancer. Um, my golf tournament's coming up in June, end of June, June 24th,
See,
June
now I know
22nd.
why he came on the show.
Yeah,
Okay,
June.
good. I'm glad I gave you a plug here. I mean, you weren't even gonna plug this thing.
Well, June 22nd to the 24th, and my teammates, all my former teammates play. We have people coming in from all over the country, actors and actresses and singers, and they come in and play, and we raise money to help these kids and their families. All the services that Cool Kids provide to the families and the children are free. Things like tutoring, if they need rides to and from their treatments. We have student teachers and retired teachers come, because children, when they're getting treatments for cancer, they have a tendency to fall behind in their studies. And these volunteers come in and help them. We have a clubhouse in Towson that we throw parties for the kids, Halloween parties, Christmas parties, and the families. If the parents want to drop the kids off at the clubhouse, they can. While the parents go out on a date. Once it's not only the kids who are dealing with the cancer, it's the families as well. So we have vacation homes that families can use for free. We have one in Myrtle Beach, one in Delaware, near the beach, Delaware, near the beach, that they can use totally free. If they can get down there, they can use it. And that's the sort of thing that the Cool Kids provides for these families. And it's I've been involved for 16 years now. And the reason being, both my parents died from cancer, and this is my way of honoring my folks. I told you before, I miss them a lot. The other day, I was playing golf out at the Fox Hollow, and my parents are in the cemetery near there, and I went over there and had a little talk with them, just to let them know that their great grandkids are doing great. So um, that's what the Cool Kids kind of means to me.
Well, I'll tell you what, I got the website up here, coolkidscampaign.org.
.org,
If
yeah.
anybody wants to learn about it, I got it up here, and the golf tournament's coming up in June. Hey, let me do more for that with you. I mean, any of the alums, people, the guests want to come on, talk a little baseball and talk more about it. And certainly the folks that directed as well, along with you. You're right on the front page here, August of 2011. The quality of life of families dealing with childhood cancer. And my wife's a two-time survivor as well. So
Yeah.
anything I can do to muscle up and help you out, I'm always there for you. Ken Singleton, always here for us here in Baltimore. He's been here for us ever since he was on the Channel 13 News on the weekends and back in the day. Singy, this 25th anniversary documentary that just got released 2 weeks ago, back in 88, spring of 88, because I remember the girl I was dating. When you left, I think they were auditioning. Maybe it was you left. Chris Ely got the gig.
Yeah.
He was the winner, but they had a contest. And I went over to Channel 13 as a 19-year-old kid in a suit. And Buren sat down and I wet my pants and the monitor came on and I did my audition and it's in the documentary. Bevo's already seen it. Buren's already sent me a note saying, it's gold. He
Where
was
can I
also a
find
part
that?
of the doc because it was league night. It's right at BaltimorePositive.com. It's the
Okay.
making of So it's a little bit of an inside joke. No one listens, everyone hears, because the biggest criticism of me for 25 years was Arbitron would always say no one's ever listened to my show because they're a little bit of a mafia. I had to pay them 10 grand a month for them to give you numbers. So I always had a 0 rating. So no one ever listened to me. But everywhere I go, people would hear what I'd say. So no one listens, everyone hears. And that's been going on for 32 years now. But it has some old 13 footage in it that I want to see your old 13 footage. I want to see your first day doing doing a sports on 13 because I remember it, right? You were playing, you were active, right?
Well, yeah, I was active, but I was hoping that those tapes were burned long time ago. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ken. I play the outfield. Let's get the Lakers score. Hey, man, inspirational. All these years up in New York, always back here doing things for the coolkidscampaign.org. I will leave with that instead of close with that next time. Ken Singleton, number 29 in your program, number 1 in your hearts. If you see him out, he's not number 1. That's Al Bumbry next to him out on the golf course. I am Nestor. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.